Indeed, I'm a French pathologist, forensic anthropologist, and I'm doing my third PhD in science with a specialty in ethics, dealing with the status of old remains, and particularly human remains. Who do they belong to, and where do they need to be at the end of life and at the end of archaeology, anthropological, and other studies. So, thanks to Alain Froment and other organizations, and especially thanks to somebody you know very well, which is Sébastien Minchin, when we met last time in the city of Rouen. I was able to study quite all the heads conserved in France in public collections prior to their official restitution. The aim of such a study was really just to give a forensic anthropologist analysis, particularly with some very important aims. A total of 12 heads were studied, or at least I can present only 12 heads today. The one of Rouen, others from Dunkerque, Lille, Paris, especially the National Museum of Natural History, Nantes, Lyon, Marseille, and Sens. As I'm almost respectful towards such items, I did not want to make any sampling on all these heads. I just wanted to make an external examination and also to carry out fiberscope and binocular lenses forward analysis. So the aims were these: determination of the sex and age at death, almost the age of death, antemortem, the determination of eventual antemortem and or postmortem character of tattoos we saw before, the pathological background, the cause of death, if possible, if any, and the details relative to the preparation mode of the toy Moko. We saw previously some figures of the tattoos and still visible on some of you, and also on old pictures of maories. And I've got a pretty good specialty in my forensic anthropology and forensic practice with the tattoos, and particularly with the determination of antemortem and postmortem ones. That's probably the reason why I was invested in such study. Concerning the head preparation, on quite all the items, we saw that the destruction of the skull base was particularly important, and sometimes most of this destruction was caused by the preparation of the head, and after it was a more huge destruction due to the museum presentation. We saw also that there was a fixation of the upper cervical skin to a kind of circle of vegetal fiber deposited at the place of the destruction of the skull base. We also saw in quite all of the head a filling of internal skull with argile. I will show to you images of such specialties. Probably this filling of the internal parts of all heads was due to a goal of avoiding decomposition and putrefaction process, if any. We also saw a filling of nose cavities with vegetal fibers. On some skulls, no, not skull, on some heads, we saw an introduction of a wood pine just here on the areata of the nose, probably with a very interesting goal, just for preventing the skin with the drying process of the face going on the left or right side of the face of the head, and the same with the fixation of the upper cervical skin to a circle of vegetal fiber. The aim was to prevent movements, atypical movements, not aesthetic movements of the skin from one part to the other part of the head. We also saw that some eyes were closed, others were not, and we saw before that this is probably consecutive to the origin of the head. Head of the killed warrior, which was the winner, and the other was the loser, if I can say. I don't know exactly the word in English. So the kind of preparation, the origin of the head was probably this explanation of some eyes which were closed and others which were not closed. For the eyes who were closed, we saw with a kind of vegetal fibers also, they were sewed in fact. We also saw that there was a little deposits of cinnabar, red deposit of cinnabar, mixed with vegetal oil. This is the kind of vegetal circle we saw on the ground, on the base of the skull. On this skull, coming from the National Museum of Natural History here, we saw that the skull destruction is still present. We still can see some attach of the cervical skin or chin skin just below the mandibula, but all the other part of the skin has been destroyed. And the filling you can see, which is made of cotton, is of course much later, coming reasonably from the collection. This is the filling of the internal cavities of the skull with argile, reasonably in order to prevent decomposition and putrefaction process, as we see with other populations, said native populations. The filling you can see here on this other skull from the same museum, this filling is really an original one, not made of cotton, but made of vegetal fibers, entirely deposited within the most inner part of the nasal fossae. And also you can see the argile and sand also deposit within the internal cavity of the skull. These eyes are closed with rests of cinnabar. You can see that the vegetal fibers are still red for this reason. Another eye which has been closed. And as I said previously, I just hope that I did not make a mistake. I wanted to say that some eyes were closed, but the mouth was closed only for the winner, not for the loser. I hope I did not make a mistake when speaking 2 minutes ago. This mouth, for example, was still open. Another one open, but please look very carefully this mouth. This is the head from Rouen that we gave back some months ago, and you can see that one of the incisives is a false one, it's a fake one, and it was replaced post-mortem by another tooth from an animal, which was tailed. From the inner part, with the fibroscope, we can see that this tooth is not a human one, with some fixation still present inside, and you can also still see the argile within the internal cavities of the skull. Such a preparation, which is pretty a good one, authorizes us visibility of important anatomical details. We can see a lot of hairs, piercings also, for the nostrils, the earlobes, and of course tattoos. I will speak a lot about tattoos just after. These tattoos are from the head of Rouen again. You can see that the eyes were not closed for this head, which is really a particularity. But you can see also that the tattoos are authentic one. I will say authentic. In fact, the best word should be rather antemortem one. And we will be able to make the difference through antemortem tattoos and postmortem tattoos, or at least perimortem tattoos. You can see that the earlobe have been pierced during the life of this individual with a strong patina of wearing earlobes. The same ear, with hairs also inside, which are a precious sign also for us for the determination of the sex. For the tattoos, according to our forensic specialty, we are able to make the difference through antemortem ones and perimortem or postmortem ones. Perimortem, I mean some days before the death, or made during all the long period following the death. For antemortem one, we've got an important patina with a blackish to a gray color. We've got a very smooth color on surface due to an old cicatrization process. And lastly, and this is also an important part, we don't have any visibility of the lower dermal layer. So we just see the skin, the epidermic surface with the blackish color, but nothing lower. For the perimortem or postmortem one, we don't have any patina. It's really a very fresh aspect, with irregular aspect and a clear visibility of the dermal layer, which appears particularly white. You will see the difference in the next few slides. This example is the head of Rouen, with quite all the tattoos which were prior to death, so really antemortem ones, excepted some on the front zones. Here you can see the antemortem tattoos, which are with a very strong patina, blackish, without any visibility of the white derm below. The same here. This other head, conserved here for a while, which originates from the collection of Maxime Ducamp, reasonably, with false eyes. You can see an important destruction. This is not our problem. Our problem are the authentic, the true tattoos, which are also antemortem. This is absolutely typical of antemortem tattoos. The same here, close to the eyelids. And here is the chin. These tattoos are absolutely postmortem ones. You can see that there are absolutely not any cicatrization. You can see the dermal layer just below, which is absolutely white, and you can see no cicatrization, no patina, absolutely not. These kinds of tattoo, we've got two possibilities. First, if it has been performed or carried out by the Maori collectivities, just in order to give much more important commercial, if I can say without doing an umpire, a more commercial importance to this aid prior selling it to the European communities. The other possibility, which is a true one, it's a possibility that such tattoos have been performed also by the Europeans themselves. You can see here a postmortem tattoo, just here, below the mouth, without any sign of cicatrization. The same for this head coming from Lille, without any cicatrization process. This head, also from this museum, has got mixed authentic tattoos with a strong patina, blackish, and smooth surface, and these tattoos which are postmortem. So on one head you can have authentic one and some others which has been added maybe for commercial purposes. These one, for example, are authentic one, antemortem ones. And these, close to the earlobe, are false one, fake one, if I can say. The same on the skull base. This has absolutely not any authenticity. This comes from Nantes. You see, I present to you many heads from the French old collections. The same here with very recent tattoos without any cicatrization, postmortem ones. Something much more anthropologist and forensic. We were able to determine or to get some more data about the sex and age at death. The sex, we saw it with genetic analysis just before, but the skull morphology is, of course, very interesting. The widening of the skull vault sutures, the presence of hairs and barbs, even if some lady, well, will not say anything, and the hair color too. The occlusal teeth attrition was very interesting for us, but we have to be very careful with such data because the alimentation and the attrition can be much highlighted with the consumption of mollusks, for example, or fibers. Also, the presence of osteoarthritis, particularly at the skull base with the temporomandibular joint and the cervical junction, were important for us for the determination of the age of death. This is quite easy for the determination of sex, of course, with these two heads from Nantes and Sens. But please see that I told to you that some heads have the nostrils closed with vegetal fibers or also caps made of wood or made of mollusks. We can see it also on old heads who lost such caps on the nostrils, but the nostrils are still opened widely. This is a sign, an indirect sign of the presence of such caps. you see here the widening of the skull vault sutures, the dental attrition, or occlusal usura if you prefer, the same here. Concerning the cause of death, I wanted to show you one case which was pretty interesting. It's a head which has been a lot of skeletonized coming from lion with, between us, some authentic tattoos, some antemortem tattoos, a large destruction by insects, and also a blunt force trauma just on the forehead, which is really the cause of death. How can I be sure? Of course, with a forensic eye, but also because we've got all the signs of a trauma that arise during the perimortem or just antemortem period, because it's typical of force destruction on fresh bone with radial and secondary trauma, and the deformation of the bone is really characteristics of a fresh one. The fake head, lastly. It's the head you spoke just before, Alain, which is made of only skin, with fake head, with fake tattoos also, all made in post-mortem period, with, of course, the hairs still present and the nails fixing this skin to the plaster cove. You can see it here. So if we make a synthesis, I'm just able to speak today about 12 heads. 10 males, 2 females, 5 young adults, I mean by opposition to mature adults, which were 7, 1 with antemortem tattoos only, 8 with postmortem or perimortem tattoos only, and 3 with mixed ante and postmortem tattoos. Why this difference through antemortem and postmortem tattoos is really important, and I think also for the Te Papa community, museum, sorry, because you see here the difference through one to the other, because as we said before, a tattoo, if I understand well, is like a book written saying the life of the individual, the personal life, and also his community life. So if we want to make a correct and legitimate repatriation to these heads, we have to be able to identify them also and to give them to the good community, not to New Zealand like this, but to the good community in order to perform the post-mortem, cults, and so on. So if we say this head has such tattoos, we need to know that these tattoos are really saying the life of the individual, but not this one, which is a post-mortem one, which is not interesting for the identification process of the individual. So I think this element is particularly interesting for you, for giving back the head to the family or to the clan. So for the antemortem tattoos, they were mainly located at both jugal region, periphery of the mouth, the philtrum, this part, and the superolateral angle of the left eye, just here, the malar region, if you prefer. Thanks to Sébastien Machin, I'm able to show you the interpretations made by one of you, Marc Copua, on the head of Rouen. And in fact, as you can see, it's in French, I'm sorry. The forehead one says that he was a chief of some tribes. The others were absolutely authentic. But you see, these ones are antemortem, antemortem, antemortem 2, antemortem. So this is father of at least one child, great warrior, great businessman. His father did not give him his last soul. His father was still living at the death of this individual. He had an important Maori knowledge, and he was supposed to be the chief of some tribes. But in fact, this tattoo was a post-mortem one. So it's not saying exactly the life of this individual. So we can say, with the forensic anthropological visualization and examination of such head, what if the true life of such individuals? Thank you for your attention. Petit résumé en français, vraiment très très succinct. Donc en pratique, on a fait un examen médico-légal sur ces têtes, et, dans un but d'inventaire d'une part, et également de donner le maximum de données sans détruire, sans prélever, donc dans un pur respect complet. La seule chose qu'on s'est autorisé, et j'en suis désolé, c'est de prendre des photographies de ces têtes, sachant que c'était pas terrible. On s'est rendu compte qu'il y avait des hommes, des femmes, 2 femmes en l'occurrence simplement, et vous savez que les femmes dans les communautés maories ont uniquement des tatouages dans cette région-ci, au niveau du menton, et en l'occurrence les femmes qui sont dans cette série-là ont des tatouages sur la totalité du visage. Donc on sait déjà que ce sont des fausses têtes, alors l'expression est mauvaise, des faux tatouages sur des vraies têtes maories. Pourquoi des faux tatouages avec des critères qui sont anthropologiques, médico-légaux? Ces tatouages étaient vraisemblablement pratiqués soit par les Maoris, soit par les Français, ou les Occidentaux au sens général du terme, impossible à dire pour l'instant, pour vraisemblablement augmenter la valeur financière. On a vu que des têtes avec des cheveux plus longs, avec plus de tatouages, avaient plus de valeur, et donc, coup, dans un but financier ou commercial, eh bien, on augmentait la valeur tout simplement pécuniaire de ces têtes-là. Dernière chose enfin, sur le plan de l'identification des causes de décès, on a 2 traumatismes par arme blanche, agent contendant. On a des lésions aussi sur le plan infectieux avec des têtes qui sont infestées par des poux et des puces. Sachant que ce sont des ectoparasites qui ne colonisent pas les morts. Donc forcément c'était du vivant de ces individus. On a également des lésions de syphilis sur une tête que je ne vous ai pas montré, parce qu'il faut être synthétique. Bref, l'anthropologie médico-légale appliquée à ces têtes nous permet vraiment d'une part de mieux savoir qui elles sont en disant quels tatouages sont authentiques et disent véritablement la vie de l'individu et non pas des tatouages à rajouter post-mortem, qui du coup sont que des ajouts et pourraient faire orienter une fausse piste pour l'identification. Et autre chose, ça nous renseigne aussi sur l'âge, le sexe, et puis aussi l'état pathologique antérieur, voire les causes de décès de ces êtres exceptionnels. Merci à nouveau.